So I don't have any DTCs at the moment. I have to clear everything to make this system test itself. So this is my setup. I'm dealing with a throttle body code, and the code has to do with the power and ground side, not necessarily the sensor side. So down there I'm back probed into the power, ground, and I've got an amp clamp around what I think is the negative side, so the air is pointing away from the motor. Kind of interesting. The code sets immediately, and the voltage and the amp trace are kind of interesting. So I'm going to put you on the screen, show you the scope, and then we'll save it and kind of go over it, and then I'm going to do the after once I put the new one on. Hang on. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to go turn the key off, and you'll see it tries to self-check, and then I'm going to turn the key back on, and then it'll trip the code and fail. So I'll be right back. So the second blip right there is me turning the key on, and this is when I turn the key off. I think that's kind of where they swipe, but very, very interesting waveform, especially with the amp clamp. So I'm going to save these files, form 12 and 13, and we're going to go over that, and then I'll do an after. But hey, check this little guy out. In case you guys that follow me notice, look at all these channels. Aha! Look at that. Got the new hotness. 8 channels now. I still got my old one. My guys at Autonerdz found this dude for me and got it to me real quick. So a big shout out to those guys. Alright, let me turn this off and get to saving this capture. Sorry about that. I meant to show you guys the code. There's the code. It sets 2101. Sometimes it sets a 2100. Both of these codes are dealing with the motor side, or the power and ground side of the throttle body. So I'm going to switch that thing out, and then I'm going to do an after capture. I think this is kind of neat the way this system diagnoses itself, and I believe the internal motor is shorted to itself, but I'll have to figure that out once I see the good capture. Once again, thanks for watching. So this is a 2024 Nissan Rouge 1.5 liter. It's a turbo 3-cylinder. This vehicle is like 46,000 or so miles on it. It gets towed in, barely runs, and this is the code, 2101. What I thought was interesting was possible causes: harness or connectors, electric throttle body, control actuator, throttle control motor, circuit opener shorted. So I thought it would be cool to get the scope out and catch a motor shorted or an open circuit, and be able to show you guys and be able to kind of see it for myself, and I have some files to look at later. So I got the scope out and found some interesting stuff. So let me show you my hookups real quick. All my hookups are basically here. I'm at 6 and 5. I have the amp clamp around 6, and the arrow is facing this way. And then on some of the captures you're going to see the throttle sensors, and I'm back probed at 1 and 4. So let me pop the captures up and we'll go over them. I was kind of surprised at what I found. So this was my first capture, and all I'm doing is really just turning the key on. You guys have worked with electric throttle bodies enough to know that when you turn the key on or key off, they move. They're testing themselves, they're swiping the blade, maybe cleaning carbon out. there's some strategy that's employed as soon as you key up or key off. And this thing would fail immediately. So the description said open or shorted, which generally when things are open and short, they fail immediately. So that's kind of what I'm going after. Basically, I have power, ground, and amps. So let's see what we got here. Like I said, this is key on. I'm running 1 second per division. Let me get some stuff moved around here. Okay, so the blue trace would be the power to close the motor. The red trace would be the ground when it closes, and of course they flip-flop when it tries to open. And the amps go positive when it tries to pull it closed. So first and foremost, the circuit's not open. A couple of clues. If we did not have an amp trace, let's just move that down. Let's just say we had power and ground. Well, you can see right here where the red trace goes up. We can go over here and zoom on this. If you hover your mouse over the trace you want to zoom and just kind of roll up and down, kind of a neat little feature. Well, we have a voltage drop right there, so current is flowing. The power is being pulsed or modulated, and we've got current flowing through this circuit. So right there, the circuit is not open. The amp trace comes into line right here. You can see this thing is limited. I believe there's some components in the computer that limit this because it's almost too perfect. It's limited to, say, 500 milliamps. I had to alter the scale on my clamp to 900 because it was maxing it out. A couple of things I noticed. First, if we really zoomed in, which I'm going to do right here. I've seen a lot of shorted motors in my day, and I can tell you when the power is applied, and then we have the ground applied, which is nothing happens at the exact same time, but it's pretty damn close. But notice the delay. You've got the power and the ground, and then the delay, and then see how it kind of ramps up? Like that, nice and smooth. If you guys have ever seen a shorted motor, you don't really get this ramp up. You get straight up. If you ever seen a shorted ignition coil, that's kind of a prime example. So although our description said open or shorted, this motor is neither open or shorted. There's something else going on with this thing. The key on, a couple of little things. Let me zoom back in here real quick. I was just kind of looking at the time. So if I draw some cursors over from the time it started till it kind of gave up on itself, it's about, we'll just say 21 milliseconds. And notice the amperage only goes up. So it's the way I have this oriented, if the amperage is positive, it's trying to close itself. Well, it is trying to close itself, and then it gives up. It never tries to shut itself. I think the strategy was, hey, I can't open or I can't close, so I'm not even going to try. I'm going to give up. And then right in here, it sets the DTC. Well, this is key on. This would be key off. So it runs some sort of a little test. Maybe it's some sort of a carbon cleaning strategy or something. So let's look at that. So we get on in here and zoom this bad dude up. We can scroll a few things down. I got a wonky mouse here. So it's really trying to close this thing. I'm guessing it's working, you know, it would be pulling against the spring that's in there. But I mean, it's pulsing its tail off.
there again, we've got our voltage drop on our ground, we've got current flow, and we've got power. But it tries to close it, and it never tries to open it. It just gives up. Now this is a little bit longer of a test. We'll just say 240 milliseconds. So at this point, I don't have an open, I don't have a short, but yet I'm still getting a throttle body malfunction code. So it's time to change the leads around a little bit. So let's go to this capture, because I still don't really know what's wrong with it. So what I've done here now is I've taken the power and the ground and I've moved them to the actual sensor side so I can monitor the blade. So this would be key on, and the amp trace is still there. We already know our power and ground's good, so we're going to go ahead and look at the amperage again. And the amp trace looks exactly the same as it should, but I've got little to no movement in my throttle positioners. See that? I mean, power ground, this thing ought to be moving, because we all know that these sensors, one goes up, one should come down. It's kind of a redundant system. Well, this computer's trying to move it, but it can't. So although the description was malfunction, it's definitely not open to shoulder. This dude is stuck. And here's key off. Same deal. We got power ground, we got current, we've got no movement. So that was kind of cool. Although the description is a little bit off, we've definitely proven this thing is stuck. So check out this next little video. I pull the intercooler up and we prove what our scope is showing us. Hang on just a minute.
So curiosity killed the cat. I raised the intercooler up and you can see, or hopefully you can see, the throttle body, the blade is stuck open. So that's why it was failing, because it was applying power and ground trying to move this motor and it never seen it move because it's stuck. That's pretty weird. The new throttle body is obviously still on back order, but I wanted to know what was going on. So there it is. That thing is stuck wide open, so system worked this time. Very interesting. Have a good one. Alright, so the new throttle body's on freaking back order. So what I did, just so I could get this video and get a known good, this throttle body right here is good. There's a guy on the other side of the shop putting an engine in. So I went and got that from him, and I basically just plugged it in. You see the harness plugged in, the amp clamp, everything's hooked up the same. This is just not a brand new throttle body, but one that does work. So let me put you on the screen here. So let's go to consult. We have no DTCs. The key is on. I'm going to go cycle the key, and then we'll basically do the capture again. You'll see off, and then I'll turn it back on. So hang on. Alright, that's a big difference. I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to save this capture. Looks like a lot more going on in here. I'm going to save it and we'll look at it. And then when we go back to consult, no DTC. So although that throttle body is used, or it belongs to another car, it's still good, and it kind of proves the case study that this one does need a throttle chamber. Unfortunately, with back order stuff, I don't know when it's going to come in. I don't know if I'll be here when it comes in, so I kind of went this route just so we could show known good. But I can already tell that's a huge difference. That's a big time difference, man. I'm really curious to dive into this now. But yeah, look at that. I mean, we're getting a lot of action in here. It's responding to the negative side. So, good deal. We got a known good, and we'll go over this thing in the classroom. I appreciate you guys watching, and sorry it took so long to get another video out, but work's kind of slow, and I've got a lot of other stuff going on, but, you know, excuses are what they are, but thanks again for watching.
Alright, so you saw in the videos where the throttle body was stuck, and that was kind of cool. Definitely not open or shorted, definitely stuck. And then of course it's on back order, so I was able to grab another throttle body, as you saw, off of another car, because I always like, in all my videos, I like to show the before and after. Although this car is not technically fixed as of making this video, the throttle body will fix it. So this is key on. Now this is power, ground, and amperage. I'm going to basically do all the traces again so we can kind of learn a few things here, but with the known good throttle body. So let's see what we got. Let's get that off of the screen. Put him up here. Digging my new 8-channel scope, by the way. The Autonerdz really hooked me up with this deal. They got it for me super quick. It was not in Texas. I'm not sure how they got it to me so quick, but they did, and I am liking it. Although I haven't used all 8 channels yet. Just got to remember, this thing only has a 50 volt input, so it's a little more sensitive to attenuators. My old 4423 is 100 volt. You guys using the 25s and above, you know, you guys got the 200 volt atomic bomb proof scopes. So here we go. This is good. Power, ground, and amperage, just like before. I'm going to roll these out. Remember, it did like 21 milliseconds, and then it quit on the bad. So right up, we're going to call that close enough for government work. Before, it just flatlined after this. Well, now we've got a lot of activity going on after, so I'm thinking it was happy with what it saw. And it did not set DTCs, as you would have saw in the little video. So that's key on. Key off is a little more interesting. So let's go back to 1. And I want to point something out, and I've got some bonus footage after this that is really cool, and I'm going to show you what it involves. It really got my brain juices flowing, so I had to figure it out. But anyway, here is key off. So remember, on the bad one, it basically quit after it tried to cycle it closed, and it wouldn't work. Well, now it obviously moves fine, so it goes through an entire, well, where'd that come from? Where it goes through an entire process. So it closes it, opens it. This area right here is what I did some extra testing that is beyond the scope of this case study that I'm going to put at the end. And I've got 2 captures that I think are badass. So if you want to hang around, we're going to call it bonus footage. But so it closes, opens, then you've got this dead zone here. So I've got no power. I'm going to give you a little teaser here real quick. Basically no power. And basically, you know, no power, or it's ground, but yet I'm showing amperage. So what's going on there? We'll figure that out. So close, open, something happened here, and then it's swiping itself. I'm assuming this is some sort of a carbon cleaning strategy, but this is happy. It gave up right here the last time with the bad one. Everything's moving nicely. So that's pretty cool. This is power and ground and amperage. So, of course, I did a capture with, let me find it here. Sensor bad, sensor good. Here we go. So what I did was I just simply moved the power and ground away and put on the signals, or the throttle positioners, and now you can actually see everything moving, which, that's always pretty cool. You can see how they kind of cross each other. One goes up, one goes down. So as the control unit is commanding it open and closing, you can kind of see the throttle positioners moving, open and closing. This would be the key off. It's a lot more movement key off than what is actually key on. This would be the key on. Let's zoom in here. It kind of goes through its little self-check. It sees everything moving and kind of carries on with its life. So, kind of an easy case study, I guess, but the failure description said opener shorted when it was actually stuck. And there are codes, I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but there are codes for these things being stuck. And the code description actually says stuck, but it didn't set that code. So I don't know if the parameters weren't tight enough, but this dude was stuck. You see me kind of tapping on it with some needle nose pliers, and it never closed. Now, if I kind of hit it a little harder, it actually did close. But as soon as it got back to that point, it stuck again. They're probably going to call it back for warranty, so I won't be able to open it up and dissect it. But it's probably got plastic gears in it. I would assume there's probably a tooth or a couple of teeth missing or burred up or something, because it sticks in the exact same spot. But that's that. And I've got a couple of more captures where I was playing around with the motor, because we all know that a motor can also be a generator. So keep that in mind, and I'll show you guys a couple of captures on the on some bonus footage. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Been a while since I put up a video, but this was pretty cool, and I thought it was worth getting the scope out and trying to learn a little something. Have a good one. All right, so this is the bonus footage here, and this is kind of where you kind of let your hair down and think out loud. Here's a disclaimer. I am not an electrical engineer. I'm a Nissan technician. I have a high school education. I've been doing this for a long time, and the way I learn is by doing things and talking to people smarter than me, which is a lot of people. One thing I found that was interesting was this right here, like I pointed out. I don't know what each and every little tiny signal means, but to me this sticks out. I have no power, no ground, but yet I have current movement. You could chalk this up to instrumentation issues. This little micro clamp that I use is extremely sensitive, but I felt like exploring this. And I've always heard that an electric motor is a motor until it becomes a generator. So I decided to perform some experiments. This capture right here is the ECU of the car doing everything. So I decided to go ahead and just turn the key on, let it do all of its cycling things, and just basically become dormant. And this is what I found. I think it's this one. Okay, so let me explain real quick. I'm in the power and ground, or ground and power. You know, these things can switch swap just like a window motor. This is just one of the throttle positioners, and this is the amp trace. The amp trace is the exact same throughout this whole video. Although the key is on, the computer's not doing this. I am literally moving the throttle blade with my hand. So I'm pushing it open, and then I'm letting the spring return it. And then I pushed it open, and I'm letting the spring return it. So at first glance, you know, there's no power, no ground. This thing is generating its own power and ground. I mean, a motor is basically a generator, if you think about it in that sense. Now, I don't have a engineering background. I don't understand a hell of a lot about electricity. I know enough to get me in trouble. I also know enough to know that I love to do experiments. I think it does make me a better technician. But if I zoom way in, which is a beautiful thing of Pico, you can kind of see, and I mean, I could go in and filter this. This is probably going to make my computer blow up. Let's see. It didn't. Yellow trace. Let's go in and display. Let's just hit active. I'm not going to push it too much. This is an old computer, and if I get to doing a lot with it, it'll lock up and do stupid shit. Now, first thing, this amp clamp is oriented the exact same way it has been. When the computer controls it, it would go positive closed. I am opening it, and it's going positive. And it's also inducing voltages back in to my control wires, back to my ECU actually, because this thing was still plugged up. It's just the key was on, and I am providing the mechanical force. And you can see the blade, the throttle positioner is still picking it up. So I think the capture that I was pointing out, when there was amperage with no voltage, I think the throttle spring was pulling the throttle closed, creating its own amperage without a voltage command. That's my thought on that. So that's pretty cool. So I took it one step farther, as you do, and I did this capture, right? Power ground, one sensor moving by hand. Okay, this one. So what I've done in this capture is I've turned the key off. There is no power to anything. As you can see right here, this thing is flatlined. Same spot, power, ground, amps. This is the throttle positioner, which is, you know, it's dead to the world because there's no power. Key is off. And what I'm doing here is I am simply opening and shutting. I'm opening the throttle body and letting the spring pull it shut. Opening the throttle body, spring pull it shut. Or if you push on the other side of it, you know, the spring kind of holds it open. And then if you push on it, it goes completely shut and then opens back up. Completely shut, opens back up. If you ever manipulated a throttle body, the spring kind of cracks it open a little bit. And these are some of the captures I've got from that. So this dude is generating amperage and inducing voltage on the lines. That is very fascinating. So I feel like that when the ECU actually commands this dude open and then stops everything and then it lets it shut on its own, you're going to get induced voltage into the lines. because that little motor has now become a generator. It is it's fascinating. You got to have a good scope to see this. 1 second per division. If you ever need to check your sample rate, I have videos on how to set this up. 1 microsecond. But yeah, very, 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 very cool. That is inducing voltage back into the lines because of a spring pulling it shut. And you can see here that, you know, the throttle blade is dead. It is moving, but the sensor's not going to pick it up because the key's off. Cool stuff. Things that keep me going. I've scoping for a long time and auto technician for, I don't know, 25, 6, 7 years. I don't know how long it is. Too many to count, but my God, this type of stuff right here is what gets me out of bed in the morning and just really keeps my brain excited, and I love checking this type of stuff. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I say anytime you can get the scope out and look at stuff, man, every time you do, it's something you can learn. You don't have to have a Picoscope. I want you to have a Picoscope. I want you to buy it from Autonerdz. But to see this stuff, it's freaking amazing, and I think it makes a better technician out of all of us, even old guys like myself. So I appreciate you guys watching. It's been a while since I put a video out. I'm going to try to do better. I do have a Facebook account, Carter's Diagnostics. I'm going to try to keep putting little reels and short little videos and in-house shop stuff, but man, we have been terribly slow. I don't know about you guys, where you guys are at, but my gosh, we have been absolutely slow. And when I'm slow, that means the shop's fixing everything like they should be. So I guess it's a blessing. All right, I'm rambling, so I appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you on the next video.